Subscribe to Mission to the Loot. It was a moonless night when David decided to take the back roads home. He had just finished a late shift at the diner and was eager to avoid the usual highway traffic. The shortcut through Pine Hollow seemed like a good idea, until he turned onto Old Creek Road. Old Creek Road was infamous in town for its dense fog and twisted turns. Local legends spoke of disappearances and strange sightings, but David dismissed these as small-town folklore. He turned up the radio, trying to shake off the growing unease, and pressed on. As he drove deeper into the hollow, the fog thickened, swirling like ghostly figures across his headlights. The trees, tall and foreboding, loomed on either side, their branches like skeletal arms reaching out to snag the unwary traveler. David's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, the radio cut out, replaced by a faint whispering sound. David frowned and fiddled with the dials, but the whispering only grew louder, more insistent. It sounded like a chorus of voices, overlapping and chaotic, but he couldn't make out any words. He turned the radio off completely, but the whispers persisted, now seeming to come from all around him. David's heart pounded in his chest. He checked the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something lurking in the back seat, but there was nothing there, just the fog and the dark road behind him. He pressed down harder on the gas pedal, eager to leave Old Creek Road behind. Up ahead, he saw a figure standing in the middle of the road. David slammed on the brakes, his car screeching to a halt just inches from the person. It was a woman, dressed in a tattered white dress, her hair hanging in a tangled mess over her face. She didn't move, didn't react to the car that had nearly hit her. David rolled down his window. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman slowly raised her head, and David's blood ran cold. Her eyes were empty sockets, black holes that seemed to suck in the light. She opened her mouth, and the whispering voices grew louder, now coming from her. "Leave," she rasped. "Turn back, before it's too late." David's instincts screamed at him to get away. He reversed, intending to turn around, but as he did, the fog thickened even more, and the road behind him seemed to vanish into an impenetrable wall of white. He couldn't see where he had come from, only the ghostly woman still standing in the road ahead. Panic surged through him. He had no choice but to drive forward, hoping to find a turnoff or a break in the fog. The woman watched him as he passed, her empty gaze boring into him, and the whispers followed him, growing fainter but never truly disappearing. The road twisted and turned, becoming narrower and more overgrown. Branches scraped against the sides of his car, and the trees seemed to close in, as if trying to swallow him whole. David's headlights barely pierced the gloom, casting eerie shadows that danced and flickered at the edge of his vision. After what felt like an eternity, he saw a dim light ahead. Relief flooded him. Maybe it was a house or another car, anything that could offer help. As he drew closer, he realized it was an old gas station, its neon sign flickering weakly in the fog. He pulled in and parked, his car sputtering to a halt. The place looked abandoned, but the light was a beacon in the oppressive darkness. David got out, his legs trembling, and approached the building. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior cluttered with old, dusty items. "Hello?" he called out. "Is anyone here?" An old man appeared from behind the counter, his eyes pale and milky. "Lost, are you?" he asked in a raspy voice. "Yeah, I took a wrong turn and now I can't seem to find my way back to the main road," David explained, trying to keep his voice steady. The old man nodded slowly. "Old Creek Road has a way of doing that. Folks don't usually come back once they're caught in its grip." David shivered. "Is there any way out?" The old man looked at him long and hard, then nodded. "There's a path, but it's not easy to find. You'll need to stay on the road, no matter what you see or hear. And whatever you do, don't stop for anyone or anything." David thanked the old man and hurried back to his car. As he started the engine, the whispers returned, louder and more urgent. He gripped the steering wheel, repeating the old man's words in his mind like a mantra. "Stay on the road. Don't stop. The fog seemed even thicker now, a living entity that clawed at his car, trying to pull him off course. Shadows flitted at the edges of his vision, and strange, ghostly figures appeared and vanished in the mist. The whispers were a cacophony of pleading, anger, and despair, threatening to drown out his thoughts. David focused on the road, his eyes straining to see the faint lines that marked his path. He ignored the figures that seemed to reach out to him, their ghostly hands brushing against his windows, and the voices that called his name, begging for help. Hours seemed to pass and David's eyes grew heavy. Just as he thought he couldn't go any further, the fog began to thin, and he saw the faint glow of streetlights ahead. Relief washed over him as he emerged from the hollow and onto a familiar road. He didn't stop until he reached his driveway, his hands still trembling as he turned off the engine. He stumbled inside, locking the door behind him, and collapsed onto his couch, trying to calm his racing heart. David never took Old Creek Road again, and every time he heard whispers in the night, he remembered the old man's warning and shuddered, knowing he had narrowly escaped the vanishing road's deadly grip. Like and share to help me be motivated to create the next horror stories. Thank you.